Listen, a lot of people objected to the fact that the nurse assistant dog, Excalibur, was euthanized. Was this an overreaction?
You know, it is sad anytime a pet has to be put down, but I think in this case it was warranted. You know, there have been researchers who have looked at whether dogs can get this disease, Ebola, and Ebola is a disease that moves between species. It probably originally came from fruit bats living in Africa. It's infected people, of course, but also chimpanzees and gorillas, and there are data that show that dogs which live in areas where there are outbreaks can also get this disease, and probably they get it from eating the corpses of animals that have died from Ebola, but also from, and this sounds disgusting, but from eating the vomit of people who are throwing up because of Ebola's symptoms. And since dogs can get the virus inside them, it's possible, though not proven yet, that then they could spread it on to other people. So it's a very real risk, and I think not a risk that the people in Madrid wanted to take. Because if it moved on from this dog and then carried on from there, that would certainly have been the wrong call not to have taken preventative measures.
Yeah, we were talking about that because, as we know, dogs, most of them are not very, or many of them, not discriminating about what they eat. And as you mentioned, you know, vomit, bodily fluids, all of those things. But according to the CDC, some studies show that dogs can carry the virus without showing symptoms, but human infections have not been linked to the dog. I mean, couldn't they have just quarantined the dog?
Well, you know, the question is how long do you quarantine the dog for? Because diseases are different when they get into different animals and they have different symptoms, you know, the 21 days that is okay for a person, if a person doesn't show symptoms after 21 days, then you assume that they're okay. But, you know, with a dog, it might be 40 days, or it might be longer, or it might be that when a dog gets the disease, the dog's immune system is able to kill it right away and there's no threat at all. But the point is, we just don't know. And so what we do know is that if you look at blood samples from dogs that live in Africa in places where there have been Ebola outbreaks, dogs in those regions show in their blood that they have had an immune response to the Ebola virus. And what that tells us is that dogs get exposed to the disease and then survive. So one possible explanation for that is that dogs can become asymptomatic carriers, or it's possible that dogs get the disease, fight it off, and then they're completely safe. But we just don't know. And so in this case in Madrid, where you have a dog that's obviously spent a lot of time with someone who had Ebola at a time when the person was infectious, you know, that would just be something that it would just be too big a risk for that dog to go on living. And if it was put into quarantine, even after 100 days of quarantine, you still wouldn't know for sure whether everything was safe.
An abundance of caution is what happened. It's sad that it did have to happen, though. Thank you very much, Dan Riskin. Dan Riskin's show, Monsters Inside Me, premieres tomorrow night, 10 Eastern, on Animal Planet.